Welcome back to Starkiller Base. Today we're going to cover off the gray cards from the Spirit of the Rebellion and continue our card analysis series, so let's get underway. We'll start off with the Interrogation Droid. It is a 2-cost support droid. The die sides are a 1 disrupt, a 1 discard, a 1 discard, a 1 discard, a 1 resource, and a blank. The ability reads, after you activate this support, look at a random card in an opponent's hand. If that card is an event, you may remove this die to discard it. So clearly it is made for a mill deck. I mean, it's got 3 discard sides. I guess you could use that in a Jabba deck, a Dooku deck, something like that. Ventress. Anything that's looking to discard your hand. The only issue you need to be careful of is that when you've got too much discard, it can actually end up being sort of dead because you spend your turn trying to discard your opponent's hand, controlling your opponent, and then at the end, once your opponent is out of cards and has claimed the battlefield or passed or whatever, and you're re-rolling dice, then any discard is a blank basically. So you need to be careful you don't put too much hand destruction in your deck. If you can mix hand destruction and milling off the top of your opponent's deck, then it can be much better and more versatile. The ability on this guy is pretty good though. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's a random card, and if it's an event, you can then get rid of it, as opposed to something like a Scout or a Maz's Goggles where you look at their hand and remove a specific type of card. But there's no cost restriction on the event you remove, so whether you hit a Planned Explosion for 0 or a Endless Ranks at 5, you can get rid of it if you choose to. Next we have R2-D2. He is a unique 2-cost support droid for, I guess I should mention he's a hero card, whereas the Interrogation Droid was a villain card. His die sides are a 1 melee, a 1 focus, a 1 disrupt, a 1 resource, and 2 specials. So, interestingly, he has no blanks on his die. The special resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by 1. It's not bad. I mean, 2 costs is a bit much for a die that has only 1s. However, the special does make some interesting things. I mean, if you're going for a focus die, you could resolve Akbar's 2 focus at 3 and fix your entire set of dice for the turn. You can have Luke's dice hitting for 4 melee, or you can get extra resources out of a resource die, that sort of thing. So he's not bad. I'm not a big fan because his die is really inconsistent. I mean, it's basically like a BB-8. It's a little bit of everything, which is not really something that you want to put into a deck that is trying to focus on doing one thing. I mean, melee and focus and resources are good. The disrupt, a little bit less so. But, I mean, it slows the deck down a little bit. But you can have BB-8, R2-D2, and C-3PO, and an astromech droid. You can have droids for days. I don't know if there's a point in having 4 droid supports out, but you could if you wanted to. Next, we have the Vibratory Knife. This one is scary. It is a 2-cost upgrade weapon. It is neutral, which means that it can go on hero or villain decks. The die sides are a 1 melee, a 1 melee, a +2 melee, a 1 discard, a resource, and a blank. It has ambush, and it reads, while this die is in your pool, melee damage dealt by your dice, including this die, is unblockable. So, hey Dug-In, how's it going? You like your shields? That's nice. You can sit on them, because I'm just going to go right through them and kill your dude. It's wonderful. One thing you need to be careful of is when you're resolving multiple melee dice, technically you're doing it 1 at a time. I know people generally just go take 3 or 4 dice, slide across the table, and go 8 damage to that guy. But if you are resolving, say you're resolving against Dooku or something like that, make sure that you resolve the Vibratory Knife die last, because if you resolve it first, then the other melee dice that you resolve afterwards in that same action are actually going to be blockable. One thing to mention is that because this is unblockable, any effects from cards that say block the damage are bypassed. So things like armor plating and force illusion do not work when the Vibratory Knife die is in the pool and you're dealing melee damage. If you're running IG-88 and expecting to be able to do some silliness with armor plating and ammo belts and recurring them over and over again, be careful. If your opponent's got a Vibratory Knife, throw a disarm in there and get rid of their Vibratory Knife first so that you can live a lot longer. This card is amazing. I mean, it has ambush, so you've now given Rey another card that she can take 2 actions off of. Speaking of Rey, this die actually works very well with her dice because it has a 1 in 3 chance of rolling a black melee to work with her +2s and that sort of thing. It's fantastic with Qui-Gon. I mean, geez, anything. Anybody. Vader with this upgrade on is scary as heck. The only thing to note is that, if you're used to hold up blasters, this does not have redeploy, so don't put it on a character that's about to die expecting it to be able to move over to your other character when they are dead, because that's not going to happen. So let's move on to the neutral cards that don't have no dice here. First we have Ammo Belt. It is a 1-cost upgrade. It reads, before another upgrade on attached character would be discarded by a card effect, you may discard this upgrade instead. This one is really interesting. The first thing I think about is second chance. The ruling has been confirmed that Ammo Belt and second chance do work together. So let's say that I have a Padme and she is about to die, but she has second chance and Ammo Belt on her. The interaction is that when you deal damage to defeat her, the second chance will heal her for 5, and then I can discard Ammo Belt to save the second chance from having to be removed. I was actually playing in a tournament yesterday. I was playing New Vader and Kylo against a, Snap, Elite Maz, Padme deck. And I killed Snap first, and then figured I'd go for Padme second. And I got Padme dead after 1 second chance was gone. And I had to go through, I think it was 6 second chances on Maz to kill her. I ended up doing a total of 71 hit points worth of damage. And the game ended at a time with the mill deck having no cards left in hand and me having 2 cards left in my hand, I believe it was. So basically you can use second chance and Ammo Belt together. You can then use cheat, I should say, to bring Ammo Belt back or second chance back. If there's a Starship Graveyard, you can recruit that again and again. One thing to note, of course, is that if someone is playing Confiscation to return second chance to your hand, Ammo Belt will not save it. So if somebody got Crime Lorded and had a second chance and an Ammo Belt on them, and the person after Crime Lording also then played Confiscation, yes, they had 8 resources. Welcome to Unkar and Jabba. Return second chance back to that person's hand. Ammo Belt could not save it, and then they died to the Crime Lord at the end of the round. It is really, really irritating to have to deal with second chance and Ammo Belt. Hopefully, it won't stay around for very long. Ammo Belt works well with armor plating as well, so on the villain side, so you can recruit that. I guess you could do it with Force Illusion, except you'd probably mill yourself, so maybe not. Next we have Evade. It is a 1-cost event. It reads, remove a die showing range damage. There's not much to say about this one. I would much rather pay 2 to remove all dice showing range damage. I'm not a big fan of these ones, simply because it's very specific. I mean, if you're in a ranged heavy meta, sure, but would you like this card to be dead if you face a melee deck? Probably not. Next we have New Orders. It is a 2-cost event. It reads, switch the battlefield with a battlefield that is being used but was brought to the game, and use its claim ability. So this is the battlefield that is sitting in the newly created set aside zone, which is basically you do the initiative roll off. I take my battlefield, your battlefield goes to the set aside zone, and then New Orders can switch the current battlefield with the one in the set aside zone. What's interesting is it uses the claim ability. So it's sort of it's a hyperspace jump, but doesn't have to be hero, doesn't have to be yellow. So if you're running, I've seen people run Pomaz and throw a New Orders in just in case they don't get the Emperor's Throne Room. It's not a bad call. And by playing it, you get to use the claim ability as well, which is pretty fantastic. I mean, let's use Poe for example, right? Poe's sitting there with a couple of blanks out on his dice. He doesn't have the Emperor's Throne Room because he lost his initiative roll. So now they spend 2 resources. They switch the current battlefield with the Emperor's Throne Room that they brought. Use the claim ability to turn a Poe's die to a special, resolve the special, and then next action they claim again, turn Poe's other die to a special, and do it again. It's pretty good. I'm not sure that I would run 2 of them, but being able to have that as a safety net is pretty good. Next we have Peri, which is the melee version of Evade. It is a 1-cost event. It reads, remove a die showing melee damage. Same idea. I mean, if you're in a melee heavy meta, sure. I want to say it's good to get rid of a Vibro Knife because 50% of the time it's showing melee, and that way you can have your shields back again. But the thing is, Vibro Knife doesn't matter what side it's showing, it still causes the melee damage to be unblockable. So I've had a Vibro Knife sitting out there at a 1 discard and being able to do unblockable damage, and then Peri doesn't do anything. So, I'd still rather run block if I had to. Next we have Swiftness. It is a 1-cost event. It has ambush. It says give the next card you play this turn the ambush keyword. So it is really interesting. It works well with Rey because it basically makes it so that any upgrade has ambush and gives Rey those extra actions. Obviously, if you're playing it in a Han deck, Swiftness gives Han a shield, and then whatever you play next also gives Han a shield because we'd have ambush. You can use it for things like we have them now. Well, I mean anything where you can fix your die sides. We have them now as you can turn up to 4 dice to any side showing ranged or melee damage, I believe. The only issue with that card is that it doesn't have ambush, so it will just be sitting there and some of the stuff could be mitigated. In this case, you could play Swiftness and then play that, which would give that one ambush as well and allow you to just fix your dice and then hit your opponent with them. So it's got a lot of potential. I mean, it costs an extra card, an extra resource, so it's kind of combo-y, but it opens up a lot of options. Next we have Resolve. It is a 1-cost support. It reads, action, discard a card from your hand to reroll an opponent's die. If you're looking for a serious control deck, then you can basically turn every card in your hand, in your deck, I guess I should say, to a control card, whether it's an upgrade or what. Well, in Awakenings, if you're playing Jabuduku and you didn't have, an isolation or something like that in your hand that you were looking for, you could just discard a forced choke or something like that and reroll an opponent's die. Now, of course, it suffers from the same issue that Scramble has and that Night Sisters has, in that because it doesn't have ambush, if you reroll the die and it lands on the same side or an even better side, then you're going to get hit with it anyway. It's not like the other supports where they have after abilities. This one is slow. It actually requires you to take an action, but it has potential, and it's non-unique, although having 2 of them out doesn't actually benefit you at all because you don't have to exhaust this to do it. So if you really want to see it, you run 2. But the second one's going to end up being there just in case somebody removes it. Next we have a villain card. This is a 0-cost event called Doubt. It reads, reroll an opponent's die, then that opponent either resolves that die or removes it. This is a really, really good card. It's 0-cost die control. Yes, it has some element of luck to it, but let's say that you're playing against Vader Raider and your opponent has a 3 melee on Vader. It can't get any better than 3 melee, so why not have him reroll the dice? He might reroll it and get a resource, and then he has to resolve the resource. If he turns it into a blank, then they have to basically just remove the die. So it's pretty good. I mean, if another option would be, let's say that your opponent's got a 2 range damage out there and then +3/+3 range damage. You play Doubt on the 2 range damage, and whether it rerolls range damage or not, it needs to be resolved by itself, and then it gets removed, so they might end up with 6 modified range damage sitting on the board afterwards. It's also very good for taking care of Vibro Knives. If you've got shields on your guys, you play Doubt on the Vibro Knife, and, worst case scenario, you get hit for 1 melee that goes through your shields, and then the Vibro Knife die is gone for the turn, and your shields can soak up the other damage. So it's really strong. I like it a lot. And because it's neutral, you can put it in any villain deck. Now we have the hero version of Doubt, I guess you can call it. It's called Confidence. It is a 0-cost event. It reads, choose an opponent's die and force them to resolve it if able. I mean, they're sort of apples and oranges. You can't do anything with blanks, unfortunately, because you can't force them to resolve a blank because blanks are unresolvable, if that's a word. But if Vader rolls in and rolls a resource, you can say, oh, you can take that resource, sir, and force them to resolve a suboptimal side. So it's not bad. I mean, 0-cost die control is always good, but this one is sort of like, it falls to the same trap as Anticipate and Feel Your Anger, where it doesn't help you if your opponent rolls well. It requires your opponent to roll something they're not really looking to resolve in order to benefit from it. I mean, it's nice that it's neutral so that if you have, say you're running mono red, right, and you don't have that much die control, well, here's some extra die control. Yay. So that is all of our gray cards for the Spirit of the Rebellion set. There's some good ones and some okay ones. Keep an eye out for the next video coming soon. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please like and subscribe, and we'll continue to bring you Destiny content. Thanks for watching, everybody.